Hey folks, Captain Mike here from Hogy Lure Company. I just want to take a minute to debrief on a trolling video we did for striped bass with our big swimming plugs. Now this video we shot is a perfect example of trolling swimming plugs in open water for striped bass that I have here in my playbook. Now let's start with the outfit. Now here I have the Hogy Hybrid conventional rod. Now this is a 5.5 footer. It's very easy to store, very ergonomic. Now this rod is a very parabolic style rod, so it's very soft and very forgiving. It's very rugged. Now we're using this outfit for trolling for striped bass today, but I use this rod all the time for trolling for say tuna, 150 pounds and under. Now, same reel for all my fishing I do with this outfit is the Avid LX6. It's got 60-pound test braid, and today we have a top shot of 40-pound test fluoro line. And sometimes I'll go heavier if bluefish are around, but just simple, easy, ergonomic outfit. Today we're just tying directly to the plug. Sometimes if I'm using larger, heavier lures, you might find a ball bearing snap swivel, but not today. We're just tying direct with the fluoro. We're in open water, high visibility for the fish, and we want to be as stealth as possible. So let's talk about the lures for today. Here I have the 7-inch Hogy Charter Grade swimming plug. Now the stripers we were targeting were keyed in on a mix of mackerel and bunker or pogies, menhaden, whatever you call them, depending on where you're from. And the fish were scattered, so obviously trolling was the perfect situation. But you can see by the profile of this lure, it's a big bodied bait. And that was the ticket for the day, match the hatch. There were some big fish, so we wanted a big offering. Now, these lures swim, typically they're 25 feet in depth. Now, a couple of tips. A, the longer the more line you put out, the deeper they're going to swim, and B, the faster you troll with them, the more traction they'll get and the deeper they'll swim. And so that was the name of the game. Big baits, alter trolling speeds to play around in the water column. But one little tip, if I know I'm in a catch and release situation, regardless of whether I'm fishing inline singles or trebles out of the package, I always remove the aft hook and mash down my barbs. Now we're in open water, and the one challenge with open water, there's no real structure to anchor the fish. So you really need to rely on the tells, and by tells I mean bird life, markings, any identification of bait, or obviously breaking stripers would mean there's stripers in the area. And so today the tells were more subtle. And so we're using the side scan on our fish finder to locate schools of bait, and we'll be trolling around them. Certainly birds vortexing. There was birds in the area. Nothing hot and heavy. So we just sort of maintained our trolling pattern while we navigated, the area, looking for birds. Certainly vortexing birds are the number one tell, but birds sitting that are reluctant to move out of the way. Bait on the fish finder, staying close to life as much as possible, while also implementing some sense of a trolling pattern. Those two together will help you dial in where the fish are and how they want to eat. Now let's talk trolling patterns. Now we're trolling for striped bass, so you can overthink trolling patterns just a little bit, but it is worth mentioning because there's the fish are scattered. And so whenever I'm in open water, whether it's inshore or offshore, I always start with an organized trolling pattern, which is, loosely I'll call, like a spiralized pattern where I'll troll north, then east, south, west, and I'll just sort of gyrate my way outward and over, maybe whatever the quote unquote area is, but usually for about anywhere between 20 minutes or 40 minutes, between 20 and 40 minutes, and that'll help me identify where the life is, if there's a direction they want it into the seas or down seas, into the light, away from the light. But a simple trolling pattern in open water can really help you get your bearings when you're starting off the day. So let's talk teasing and weeding. Yeah, trolling plugs aren't normally considered lures that you would tease. Certainly inshore fishing in general is not necessarily known for teasing. And let's just step back for a minute. By teasing, I mean cranking in the lure and letting it back out, cranking the lure and letting it back out. Well, there's a few reasons you want to do this. For starters, if there's any weeds in the area, that surge forward and the drop will help shed the weeds. Whether it pops off in the surge or pops off in the drop, that'll help keep your lure clean. Number two, if I'm marking a lot of the fish and I'm not getting bites, teasing fish becomes a go-to technique for me because they're around, they don't want it for some reason, I don't know what it is, but I do count on that FOMO reaction strike. So if a fish has the lure in its peripheral vision, surging it forward or dropping it back might trigger that reaction strike. And then really the third scenario where I would tease a plug is, say if I had a hit and a miss, if I'm near a rod, I'm going to drop it back and crank it in, and I'm not sure if it's the fish that swung and missed coming back for it. When you drop back, it'll sort of stay in the zone of the fish, or if it's another fish feeling competitive, grabbing it. Either way, all I know is my rod's bent. So those are really the three scenarios where you would want to tease a plug while trolling for stripers. Let's talk about the hookup. So you hooked up. Now we've got two lures out. These swimming plugs float. So if you're able to stay in gear and idle, a lot of times you can leave your second line in the water. It's a great way to get hit because after all, you just went by at least one fish. Chances are there's others. But in different sea conditions or in boat traffic, if there's a bigger fish, if you do need to take the boat out of gear, yeah, the lure will float, but it's always a good idea to clear the non hooked up lines. Good way to make sure you don't have weeds. But keep it simple, use common sense. If you're able to keep the boat in gear, you can leave your second lure out. If you need to stop it for a minute, the lures float, so that's fine. But if it feels like it's at risk of getting in the edges, clear in the open line and just land the fish properly. So we're targeting big fish today. So we're landing to release. I mentioned a little earlier that if I know I'm releasing, the aft hook has come off my plug, whether it's a single hook or a treble hook, and I've mashed the barbs down on the forward hook. And we all know that stripers tend to hit particularly large baits from the head, so it's that frontward facing hook to me is the most important hook. But either way, when I get this fish boat side, I'm going to swim this fish alongside. So usually with the barbless, just single front hook, it's easy to dehook the fish. I'm just going to swim it alongside the boat. Now when that fish starts fighting me and starts clamping down on my thumb a little bit and has the strength to shake loose from my hand, that's when I know it's time for the healthy release.